This year, 2013, the town of Richmond Hill is celebrating its 140th anniversary. Historic photos of Yonge Street reveal the many changes as Richmond Hill developed from a small suburban village just north of Toronto into a population of nearly 200,000. Richmond Hill is now known as the largest town in the province of Ontario. Over the course of that history, only 10 women have been elected and 1 appointed to serve as councillor for the town. This historic presentation is intended to honor the woman who has become the longest-serving female in Richmond Hill's history. For 26 years, town councillor and then regional councillor Lois Hancey represented our community with passion and determination.
I'm a yes person for no one. I make my decision based on facts. I'm a fact-finding decision maker. And I can't be intimidated or coerced or convinced unless all the facts are there.
A family friend and the first female Premier of Ontario, Kathleen Wynne, recalls growing up with Lois.
So in my family, Lois was somebody who was out in the world and was making her mark and didn't take any nonsense from anybody.
My record proves that I've given you full-time representation and have even taken on higher levels of government in our interests. I haven't sat back and said no, taken no for an answer.
She's a fighter. She's a fighter, you know, and she fights for what she believes in. And one of the things about many women politicians that I have come across is that we've had to fight maybe a bit harder to get into our positions. And when you look at the pictures of the former councils when Lois was a councillor, you just know that she had to take her place, that she had to push back on basically the sexism of the day. And she had to really assert herself. And so she deserves an enormous amount of credit for that.
Lois Hancey had ambition. As a mother of 2 young boys who spent their days playing cowboys and Indians, Lois looked for another pastime. She believed that all kids should learn how to swim, and so Lois started a public awareness campaign throughout the town.
So, being as stubborn as I am, went to all the restaurants in town and got table mats advertising water safety.
Lois had been before council numerous times, but was continually told that there was no money for a swimming pool.
I had been to council about the swimming pool, having one. And he said, well, why don't you run for council? I said, don't be so silly. I don't know anything about catch basins or sewers or anything. And he said, well, we don't either.
While she raised public awareness about the need for a pool, she raised very little in funds. Undaunted, Lois continued to press council for action. She admits to being stubborn. Others might call her determined or ambitious. And she realized that council was likely trying to discourage her efforts when they suggested that she run for office. But Lois took it as a challenge and knew that it was likely the only way to achieve her goal. Premier Wynne agrees. Sometimes you just have to take the plunge.
It's very important, given this town and how it's grown, that we say to young women, think of this as an option. Think about whether being in politics is something that you might want to do at some point. You don't have to do it when you're young. You can do it later. I didn't become an MPP until I was 50. I became a school trustee when I was 47. So the life experience that a woman has, whether in another career or that other career of raising kids, that's all valuable when you think about putting your name on a ballot. So I hope that we can encourage young women to put their names forward, or women who have had 1 or 2 careers.
After attending every Monday night at council, Lois finally agreed and handed in her nomination papers. The year was 1963.
It's very difficult running an election. Nobody could ever say that it's easy. You have to raise funds. You have to get helpers, especially if you're running for region. So there was money, there was the construction of the literature.
But then there were those election signs. Lois prides herself on being the first electoral candidate in Richmond Hill's history to run 2 election campaigns without any signs.
I'm not fond of signs. I think that's kind of my sign too, that I ran 2 elections without any. Everything came out roses for my beef on the bun, and meet the candidate, and we had fun. We had fun too. Council convinced me to run because I was so angry with them. And in any event, I got to every door in the ward, and every single one, and callbacks, and the boys delivered my 1 letter, and for thanks for doing that, they got potato soup, which they loved. And I make good potato soup, or I used to anyway. And to my surprise, I got elected.
Once elected, it was a new set of challenges for Lois and her family.
If I had a meeting in the morning or one at dinner time that might run over into dinner time, I had everything prepared and made a list for the boys to turn the potatoes on at 5 o'clock or 5:30, whatever, and on whatever temperature, and the same with the oven if something was going in the oven, and they did it faithfully. I used to walk from here to the town hall at Wright Street. I got it down to 18 minutes, sometimes in high heels.
Frequently, as the only female on council, Lois found that her colleagues could be quite challenging.
Just like the region, it was a boys' club. That's not to say that I don't enjoy male company, but whenever they're doing business, they've got a tendency to stick together.
Having been told that there was no money for a swimming pool, Lois made a motion to ask others for the money. With Canada's centennial year fast approaching, the federal and provincial governments were making contributions to centennial projects. The timing was perfect. Lois made a motion to ask other governments and agencies for contributions to her cause. Who wouldn't support a motion like that? For her efforts, Lois was presented with a trophy. It was a simple trophy, much like the trophies given to hockey players of the day to thank them for participating. But Lois has kept it and proudly displays it for everyone to see. As an elected representative, you can make changes to your community. It isn't easy, as Premier Wynne knows.
I would say don't take no for an answer. If you talk to people who say, oh, well, it's really difficult for this reason, you have to raise a lot of money, are you sure you've got the qualifications, are you sure you've got the experience? If you in your gut know that you have something to offer, then you have something to offer. It's complicated work, but it's not that complex, and so anybody who tells you that you don't have a chance, you got to try it. And losing's not the worst thing. I lost my first election, but it taught me such an enormous amount, and I was able to come back.
Today, the town of Richmond Hill has a total of 6 swimming pools, including Canada's largest indoor wave pool. The wave pool is a family-friendly, wheelchair-accessible facility that includes a swirl pool, an on-deck sauna, and a 160-foot twisting water slide. And to honor the woman who started it all, the building is named the Lois Hancey Aquatic Center. As a spirited octogenarian who now needs oxygen 24/7, Lois offers the following advice.
I would advise them to try to get the hide of a rhinoceros, but still keep it very thin, because if they haven't got a thin skin, how could they associate the problems of people, of helping them through counsel or through the concerns that they have? But the hide of a rhinoceros is needed to deal with some of their colleagues. And anyone who feels that they have the staying power and the courage And if they can locate some cash, run. Please run. It doesn't matter whether you win or lose. Run. Because someday you're going to win. And that's what happened to me.